Hey, this is a tutorial how to use the Subsplit feature in Livesplit. I'm currently using Livesplit 1.5.5 and Subsplit version 1.5.2. In the later versions of Subsplits, this entire video will be completely obsoleted, but for now, I'll be good. The essence of Subsplits is to be able to show a large number of splits in a small amount of space. Very often, if you have like level splits for a world, and here we go from world 1 to 4, so we just have 16 splits, but only showing 8. At any given time, you're seeing only half of the splits. And generally, especially when you're early on in the run, you want to have more information about the overarching splits later in the run. And when you're at the end of the run, you would like to be able to see more overarching how the run went earlier on. Because like this, I can only see what happened in the last 2 worlds. While it'd be nice to be able to see what also happened in the first 2 worlds without having to scroll up and down in the middle of the run. Particularly for people or viewers who don't even have control of the splits and just kind of it's automated. So the idea is to compress which splits to collapse each world so you only see one world, the overall of the world. So all of world 1 will be 1 split, all of world 2 will be 1 split, etc., etc. And it will open it up to see all the detailed splits when you're actually inside of that world. So to do that, the first thing you'll need to do is to use subsplits. So the first thing you'll need to do is, you see here I have normal timer and splits. To use subsplits, just go in the list and you'll see there's another function called subsplits. In the future, when subsplits becomes more improved and there are additional features, it will probably eventually replace splits completely. But for now, it's a separate thing. So we're going to add subsplits. The default colors are terrible. That's completely my fault. Sorry about that. But so you'll probably want to change them. Here we're just going to turn off all the colors, so it's just the same background color. And we're going to reduce the number of splits as 8, so it's the same as before. And we'll make it a bonus. So now it looks identical as normal splits, but it's subsplits. And one thing you'll notice is in the options is there's all these extra features right here. One thing that you might note, though, that's outside, it's not part of subsplits, but I kind of threw it in there, is a feature here called hide blank icons. All this does is if you have the default icon set, you have no icon set, then it would show the Livesplit logo on all those splits, while hiding blank icons will remove that. It's just a nice little feature. And so you can have icons on some splits, but not all splits, if that is something you kind of prefer. Alright, so subsplit. The first thing you'll notice is that it says here to add a dash being the split name. So in order to designate something as a subsplit, like I said, this will something be changed in the future, but you just add a dash or a hyphen or a minus sign, everyone call it, at the beginning of a split name. And now I've designated a subsplit, and the section ends at the last not subsplit. So level 1 and 2 are now together, and if I want to put all of the world 1 into one set, you do it like this. And so now when I scroll through the splits, you see that world 1 is now collapsed and it only shows the final world split until you actually are in the world and it expands open. So I can go ahead and open. I have prepared here, so now you have all the worlds are their own sections, and you can just go through all the worlds. And you see, and even when you're ending the game, you can still see how each world was. And at the beginning of the game, you can kind of see the end of the run. If there's times here, this would all be here. You can also notice there's this header here. This is completely optional. This is defaulted on, but you can turn it off. This header is this inner section here. But I'll get there in a second as soon as I finish explaining this. The subsplits, there's a few options here. Most of them are probably not applicable to most people. You can change contextual subsplits is the default. That's, as I explained. Hide subsplits just makes it so the subsplits are always hidden. So it only shows the world splits. And always show basically turns subsplits off. And it kind of has a normal behavior. There's some cool features you can do with this. For example, if you have two sets of subsplits, so if you add subsplits twice, and in one version, you make it so it always hides the subsplits. We'll also turn the header off. So here it will have, it'll only show the worlds. So you have worlds 1 to 4. And this other one, I can change it so that there's another option here, is only current section. So this way, and you want to turn off always show last split here. So total splits to 4 again. One more for the header. So now if I step through the splits, you'll notice that world 1 is highlighted and level 1 is highlighted. And as I go through, the top will always be those levels of the world, and the bottom is the world. This is probably not very good. It's a little confusing what's going on exactly with some people. It's nice, particularly if you have very few sections but a lot of splits. For example, if you are an RPG runner and you might have a major split for every disc, so disc 1 to 4, and then you would have subsplits for all the contents of the disc, like all the boss fights and so on and so forth. So that'd be one possible use of this. Not very applicable to most people, but it is there if people like it. Now go ahead and set this back. Okay, so most of the options in subsplits are pretty self-explanatory. Over here, you have indent to subsplits, whether they're indented or not. Indent last section, you kind of might want to put these together depending, usually. This is kind of a lot. You can change the color. For example, you can make this like a gradient horizontal. This is something that you can be very clever with the colors. You just have to use the transparency. For example, if I make this slightly purple, I guess like kind of purplish, you can kind of get this, that whole section is colored. And if you make it like alternating here, this will actually mix the two colors. So say one color is like this red color, and one's the blue color, and they'll be mixed with this purple. So as you step through the splits, now the blues mix with purple and the reds mix with purple. So you can be creative. The more fancy you are, the more likely that you're gonna make colors that don't work. But it's interesting. It's fun to play around with. So I highly recommend messing with that. Now the header, though, there's a lot of options here. Is it kind of self-explanatory? What the header is an extra split above the current section, and it'll just have a timer for that specific section. It's kind of like when you have a detailed timer, you have this time for the individual split. So every time you split, the timer resets, and that's just the time for just this individual split. Well, this time is the time for the individual section. So as you step through the section, the timer will now reset when you hit the next section. And if you scroll up, you can see the time that you finish. So when you get to the end of the run, you can get all the time. And the time on the left is the total time of the sections. I don't have any data here, but if I go ahead and finish a run here, now if I step through it again, the left on the right, the section will have, this is the total time spent on the section. That's your PB time for that. Currently, there's no best time, like gold sections, because of limitations of Livesplit. That's currently not a possibility. Another major problem with the headers is that the header name and icon that it uses there is grabbed from the last split of the section. This is like the world split. And so when I start, this will be labeled as level 1-4, which might not. You might want to do 1-4, but you want this to be called world 1, not level 1-4. So it's not exactly what you want. Because once again, because of limitations of Livesplit, I can't allow you to set this separately in any reasonable fashion, but hopefully in some updates coming up, that will become a thing. You can turn on and off the timer on the right. You can turn off the actual timer in the center and set its color and accuracy and so on and so forth. Some alternate ways you can also set up the splits is, instead of doing -1 to 4, if you go ahead and add a world split, and now the header will take the last split, which is a world. So I just renamed level 1-4 as world 1. So now you can use splits just the same way as you did before. Just the final level, the last level, I just name it as the world. So you can do that kind of thing. It's slightly confusing, I guess, because it doesn't say level 4 or whatever, but it's pretty straightforward. This is what I most recommended setup I would use, because then you see the world splits out here, and you have a normal number of splits. The alternative is you have both the level split and the world split, and what we would have to do is, while you're going stepping through this, is world 1 isn't an actual split. Level 1-4 is the last split of the world, so you actually just have to skip this last level. Big problem with that is now that you're missing a split here, there's no time here, you're skipping that. So I don't recommend this setup, but this is kind of something you could do if you really wanted to. But yeah, it's once you get it going, it's just kind of messing around and having fun with the colors and the options. There's a lot of options. So good luck, and if you have any questions, just feel free to send me a message on Twitter. And good luck in your runs.